to get it.
And we're reminding you of the ways that you can protect yourself and your home as we face these very cold, freezing conditions.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
And so glad you could stay with us for Weather Extra. Meteorologist Tania Michelle joining us again. Tania, speaking of freezing, it's freezing again.
It's
right
cold. I'm wearing my coat in the studio. I'm wearing my coat outside.
There's a chill. Yeah.
I'm just turn on the heat.
It's the wind. You know, I can handle it, but when you have that
that wind chill is no joke.
It's no joke. Listen, a lot to talk about. We have new data coming in, and it's kind of like tracking a tropical system. It's model madness at these times, but the good thing about here is we have all the models, we have all the guidance, so you get to see that right here on Weather Extra. And on top of that, we have time to prepare. You know, this isn't a situation where we have a very short amount of time to get ready for it. At least we have a couple days, and a lot could change.
And still have a couple of days. So now and Thursday, get yourself together, winterize that home. But Wes, take us on. What's that next big thing?
All right, let's go to, first off, showing you where we have winter storm watches. Here we go. They're popping up from Dallas, Texas, all the way across Arkansas and the parts of Mississippi. Birmingham Weather Service, they're going to make a decision on this later as we gather more data. The system really hasn't even taken shape back to the west, but we'll know more. But based on the data today, this is what we're thinking, and the team, we've been discussing the setup on Friday, and I think there's a high confidence that Friday morning, area-wide, we're going to see a wintry mix to start the day. It won't last all day, though, for parts of the area. What happens by midday and into the afternoon? Well, rain, snow line sets up a very brief transition zone where you go from a wintry mix of sleet, snow, maybe a little freezing rain to a cold rain and snow that will be in areas to the north. And then we could see some freezing rain that may continue into East Alabama. We need to watch that as we go into the afternoon and into the evening, places like Cleburne, Cherokee County, so that freezing rain may continue. But what happens Friday night is the snow could come back. We could see the rain snow line drop south. Let me show you some of the new data just in. This is from the Barron model. The 15-kilometer model is showing us that this starts out again. There's the wintry mix. There's Friday morning, and then you can see maybe a window where we have a cold rain, perhaps from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham to Anniston. But right in here, that transition zone is going to set up. I do have a higher confidence. The 278 corridor points north. That snow is going to continue. That's where we'll have the higher accumulations. But then by Friday night, notice how the model shows maybe that snow line dropping south, and we start to see some accumulations along the I-20 corridor, maybe even points further south into the evening. And then we've got to watch out for maybe some patchy black ice into early on Saturday. So lingering impacts into the weekend, maybe some leftover flurries. Check that out into Saturday morning. The one thing about when all this begins early on Friday, the temperatures, they'll be right at freezing. We won't have low teens or mid-teens, so it won't be just a sudden flash freeze. We'll have some time early on Friday to react to those changes and what's happening as we monitor the conditions across the area. So a lot that we are going to be tracking here. Very complex system. And also don't forget to just check in for updates, because this forecast, these winter weather situations, always a fluid forecast because we're always right on the line. But we'll be updating that forecast on the First Alert Weather app. Just scan the code for First Alert Weather Day information on the winter weather, and you can find more at your exact location. But we'll have plenty more updates as we're now starting to gather that high resolution data is going to tell us a lot. But with these cold temperatures, we're also bringing the first alert for protecting your home. Meteorologist Megan Thomas has those tips on what to do to keep warm safely.
As we head into this evening and the next couple of nights, it's really going to get cold. Temperatures in the teens and the 20s, and it's always a good time to remember to protect the 4 Ps. Your people, your pets, your pipes, and your plants. You need to bring them all inside, and there's really a lot that goes into this, okay? It's really not that hard, but something to remember, the pipes are important. When we get these extreme cold temperatures, you really need to start thinking about dripping your pipes. So here's what you do. You have to open up, of course, underneath the sink, open up the cabinet, and of course just drip the pipe ever so slightly, drip that faucet, and that will help the water continue to run while you go to bed. It won't stay stagnant and won't freeze and then bust your pipes. Another idea is also remove your drain and store your outdoor hoses. You've got to bring those hoses inside, and of course cover the spigot. That's also a good idea, especially outside as temperatures fall sub-freezing. Also, another great idea to keep things a little bit warmer in the house is open the kitchen and bathroom cabinets cabinets, and you can leave your heat no lower than 55 degrees. Another thing is when it gets this cold, you want to bring out your space heaters. And of course, that's a great idea, but you need to be careful. You've got to leave them on a level and non-flammable surface. Some of the biggest house fires that we see are caused by space heaters. You need to leave it at least 3 feet away from anything flammable. Plug directly into an outlet and do not use extension cords. That causes them to spark quite quickly. You also, I know this should go without saying, but turn it off if you leave the room or before you fall asleep. So just remember, people's, pets, pipes and plants all going to be important to take care of and bring them inside over the next couple of mornings as temperatures tumble.
And those are great tips. So let's walk through them one more time and maybe even add a few here on how you can best winterize your home during these cold conditions. We're having that cold blast this week, but we could see another one next week. We'll talk more about that in just a bit right here on First Alert Weather Extra. But we talked a little bit about it. Open those cabinet doors, those garage doors. Keep those closed. Don't open those. Keep them closed. It prevents that cold draft to build into your house. Let those faucets drip, seal those pipes. That's what Megan was talking about. Protect those outdoor spigots. She mentioned that as well. And then you want to make sure you inspect any weather stripping around your home. Seal off those window sill cracks and around your door so that you can eliminate that extra cold air from coming into your home. Check on any backup heat sources. She talked about that, being careful with any external heating sources, and locate that main water shutoff in case you need to use it. But in these cold temperatures, it's important to bundle up and prevent your skin from being exposed to the elements in order to prevent cold weather injuries like frostbite and hypothermia. Besides your hands and feet, skin on the nose, ears, and cheeks can be highly impacted by frostbite and hypothermia. Hypothermia happens when your body's core temperature falls below 95 degrees, causing symptoms of shivering and exhaustion, while frostbite can cause your skin to turn white or grayish yellow. Health experts say treatment for these injuries can involve several steps.
First, go into a warm area, remove anything that is wet, any wet clothing that you may have, and then you can gently rewarm that part of your body. It's important not to use hot water. If you still have symptoms or they're severe, we recommend that you get medical attention.
And these tips are good to remember, especially as you are heading into the coldest days and even colder conditions for the rest of this winter season. But this also comes as Aaliyah State Troopers are asking you to prepare your car for the bitter cold and winter weather. You can do this by making sure your car or truck is winterized, and it starts by having plenty of oil and antifreeze. It's also best to not forget your tires and batteries, and have an emergency kit that includes things like snacks, water, flashlights, and my favorite, blankets. Aaliyah Trooper Reginald King saying the early you plan, the better.
Alabama generally doesn't get a lot of ice or snow. However, when it does happen, we do see an uptick in traffic crashes, if you will. We like to encourage everyone to have a plan before you take to the roadways. If you're driving during times of inclement weather such as ice or snow, if at all possible, avoid highway travel.
And always remember to avoid cruise control. Slow down and please be careful when crossing bridges and overpasses, as they're the first to freeze. Well, coming up, we're talking about the effects of the winter storm after it impacts parts of the country. We'll be right back.
And welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. Live look from Pinnacle Motorsports in Bessemer. I wanted to show you the temperature now 31 degrees, and we're starting to see those freezing conditions area-wide for several hours again. Look at the forecast lows here for the next several nights. I mean, we have the First Alert Weather Day, even some snow and ice possible there to Friday and Saturday. 19 Thursday morning, so we're going to be coming off of some really cold mornings, and it looks like the low temperatures will drop into the freezing range there. And also look at next week. So the cold air, it is here to stay for a while. We're going to talk a lot more about that 10-day forecast and the Friday snow chances that's coming up.
Well, thanks, Wes. We're going to take you across America now and to parts of the country that are experiencing massive and even deadly winter storm conditions, but it has come to an end. It hasn't left without leaving some lingering issues, though, as an Arctic blast continues to move through the country, is preventing the snow and ice from completely melting. This could cause dangerous conditions for those who were in the storm's path, and some people are still without power and, the worst part, heat. And in certain areas, driving conditions still require caution. And that same Arctic blast bringing possibility for winter weather, not just for our area, but across the southeast over the coming days. Meteorologist Matt Daniels is going to join us now with the types of precipitation cold conditions like this can bring and why it oftentimes can bring more than just snow.
Let it snow, let it snow. You might have dreams of building a snowman like this. I wish winter weather was easy, but it's not. If we could only have two types of precipitation, rain and snow, it would make our lives as meteorologists very easy. But unfortunately, there's different types of precipitation, and it's all about the temperature profiles, not just at the surface where we're worried where it's 32 degrees or below. It's what's happening with the temperatures as you go aloft up into the air. That makes a critical difference in a forecast, and it can create either 10 plus inches of snow in a spot or just a cold rain and a lot of disappointed people who were hoping for some snowfall. So let's talk about those precipitation types. Of course, first of all, you got your basic rain, and it's pretty obvious when you go way up in the atmosphere like this, you're looking at temperatures above freezing. So you've got a little thin layer of freezing temperatures, initially falls as snow, and then as it continues to fall through that warm layer, it just melts into a liquid, and that's where you get rain. However, one of the trickier aspects when it comes to precipitation is freezing rain. And freezing rain is the worst. It's not pretty. It creates ice on surfaces. And as you know, that creates traffic accidents. It can weigh down trees, causing them to crash, and you lose electricity. So when it comes to freezing rain, you got snow initially aloft, falling, and then it enters an area where it's above freezing, shaded right here in pink. But however, it's a very super cooled liquid. And as it gets to a very narrow, shallow layer of temperatures at or below freezing, that supercooled liquid hits the object and it becomes ice. So in a setup like this, it gets very tricky. When you make those forecasts for winter weather, you have to find out if there's a little bit of warm air aloft and cool air at the surface that could create, instead of rain, freezing rain. And then you've got sleet. That's another precipitation type that we look at. Snow melts in that warm layer above the surface and then refreezes into ice pellets. As you can see, the cold air, shallow air is a little bit larger, so it allows it to kind of freeze into those little tiny ice pellets, and they make it to the ground. Sleet, in most cases, not that harmless at all. It doesn't cause major issues. The only issue is if you get different precip types and surface temperatures are below freezing, it becomes a really sloshy, icy mess across the area. And then finally, if you're wanting snow, this is what you have to have. You have cold air aloft all the way down to the surface. So temperatures are below freezing, and you get that snowflake that forms, and it makes it all the way to the ground and creates accumulations. But if you get any subtle changes of warm air aloft or at the surface, you can get different precip types. So as meteorologists, when you give those forecast totals, sometimes if you get a mixture, it can cause some issues with those snowfall totals. And so if you think it's only going to be 5 inches of snow, and then all of a sudden you get a lot of freezing rain and sleet, that 5 inches of snow becomes very little. So winter weather, very tricky. It causes a lot of problems, and that's why we're here always keeping a close eye on the forecast as things evolve and change.
Well, thanks, Matt. One of the other things that we like to remind you all, on top of seeing these cold conditions, whether we get snow or any kind of winter precipitation, you really just want to make sure you're bundled up. Here you see some pictures of coats, because it's really all you need right now. Heavy coats, extra layers, the scarves, the hat, the gloves, the boots, the thicker socks. Bring it all out. As we bring in Thursday morning, it's going to be one of the coldest morning. We'll start with 20s and teens on the map, seeing your afternoon temperatures in the 30s, maybe a few few 40s, low 40s out there late Thursday afternoon. In the evening, it gets cold again. But keep in mind, we've been talking about the slightest wind. Well, that slightest breeze makes it feel even colder. So just make sure you're prepared to stay as warm as possible. Layer up your kids, even thicker layers, because, hey, their bodies don't hold in heat as well as adults do. But we'll have more right here in First the Weather Extra. Wes?
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We continue to talk about Friday's winter weather impacts, as well as take you to places across the country who are still looking for their first significant snow of the season. We'll be right back. Back into First Alert Weather Extra. Here's a look at that winter storm threat coming up on Friday. Some of the brand new data that we've been sharing with you still showing a wintry mix Friday morning. This will be for Friday and into Saturday. So with respect to Thursday night, I think during the evening, no issues. And actually past midnight and into early on Friday, we'll have some time to watch this. But we'll likely see maybe some freezing rain, sleet, and snow during the early morning. And the temperatures will be right at or just below freezing. So those elevated surfaces, bridges, overpasses, there certainly could be some travel impacts there early on Friday. So giving you the first alert. As far as the rest of the day goes, those travel impacts will continue to go downhill, especially for areas to the north. Areas to the south, closer to I-20, we may see a brief change over to rain for part of the day, and that may allow us to get from point A to point B, but you can still see that snow line, freezing line is not too far away, and that's the thing. We're a couple days out. This could change, so I always say just prepare, have a plan, have a backup plan in case this slides further south. But areas north, now Gadsden, Aniana, Coleman, Double Springs, Marion County. I'm very confident right now we're going to see some decent snowfall accumulations in some of these areas. And again, that's on top of that wintry mix of sleet and freezing rain we'll see early in the day. And there might actually be some freezing rain far east Alabama that continues, even though we will see a little bit of rain transition there during the day. Freezing rain might be an issue far east there into the afternoon. But notice what happens Friday night as the temperature starts to fall again. Here comes the snow line south. So there's still a chance we could pick up those accumulations into Friday night. So we could end up with, a mixed Friday morning, maybe rain for part of the day for a good portion of the area, snow north, and then a greater chance for some snow heading into the evening on Friday, and then some leftover, maybe a patchy ice there into the early morning on Saturday. So that's what it looks like right now. We have that freezing rain chance. I'm looking maybe 1 to 3 inches of snow. Again, it's a wet snow. Higher totals. There'll be a couple of spots in there where we'll see some higher amounts. Low temperatures in the 20s for the early morning, so freezing tomorrow morning. The rest of the day, we'll see those temperatures rising into the near 40-degree range with some sunshine during the afternoon. There's the 10-day forecast. And again, the first alert weather day Friday into Saturday, still very cold as we go into next week. Tania?
Well, Wes, we've been talking about the cold conditions, and as you've mentioned, these temperatures, nothing to play with. So what do you need? Well, you want to remember to dress in extra layers: scarves, hats, gloves, boots, thick socks, all of it, right? And don't be like Russell and be angry just because we're trying to keep you warm. We're trying to keep you safe here, guys. But what about beyond the 7-day? What are things looking like us past this week? Well, we're bringing you into January 15th through January 20th to the middle of the month. And as you can see, as far as precipitation, much of the U.S. dealing with more near average, but here across the southeast, we're going to be seeing above average rainfall. And could that be snow? Well, I can show you this. Our temperature outlook still showing below freezing conditions January 15th through January 20th. So the big question is, could we see more snow? And I'm here to show you that some models are hinting that we could have another round of possible wintry weather, winter precipitation here across central Alabama. This is beyond the 7-day. Looking at, this is January the 18th, and it looks like areas to our east might be getting some more of that winter precipitation, but there could be a chance that we see some of it too. This is Sunday, January 19th. We definitely need to keep our eyes on that next surge of cold air building into the area. It's the winter weather season, so you can never be too sure. We have to keep an eye on it, right? But even though we're preparing to get snow in our area this week, places across the country are wishing for it and in need of more of it. Matter of fact, Joy Benedict is in California and has the latest.
It's a beautiful fall-like day in Big Bear Village. Short sleeves and shorts were the attire of choice. But the problem is, it is far from fall. It's supposed to be winter.
When we come up here, it's like so beautiful. It's like, man, there's no snow up here. It's kind of bummed out.
Eddie Garcia brought his kids from Norwalk to learn they were overdressed.
Yeah, I know. This weather's been crazy.
Crazy good for those who love ice cream. Crazy not so good for those depending on snow to make a living.
We all see a decline on the numbers, but still we're okay.
Marcelo Alvarez owns Massive Sports. He says things are slow at his ski shop, but he's been in this town long enough to weather the warmth.
It'll come sooner or later. We know that business can be down a little bit, but it'll happen. Eventually we'll get the snow.
Further up the mountain, there is snow, but it's man-made for the slopes. How much natural snow did you guys get in December?
0. Big 0.
At Big Bear Mountain Resorts, they are only operating a quarter of their trails, as they saw not 1 inch of snow in December, where the average up here is usually 11 inches. That means they could only accommodate half the customers they usually see for the holidays.
Obviously, with limited terrain, we can't accommodate quite as many people as we would if we were fully open.
And although Big Bear Mountain Resort does have the ability to make its own snow, they say the weather conditions haven't even been cool enough for them to do much of that.
You need the right humidity density for that to crystallize once it gets in the air. Otherwise, you're just blowing water in the air.
But the trails that are open are certainly busy.
It's a lot of their first time snowboarding. I'm the only one that has experience, so I was going to teach them all how to go. But a little lack of snow, but we're going to work with what we got.
As many aren't deterred by the less than snowy conditions.
I get to hang out with my buddies. There's nothing better than that. So.
But as fast as things can heat up in Southern California, they can also cool down, as the winter weather watchers hope they won't have to wish long for the snow to fall. Joy Benedict, KCAL News.